I got a great anecdote here for what you just said, Skizz.
Do it.
Do you want to know what one of my hardest ones to get past was? It
Uh,
was Tool. For the
oh,
longest time, we all hated Tool. They were Tools. We weren't interested. And then again, it just I think it was Ren. Yeah, Ren was like, "Oh, I'm a huge Tool fan," and I was like, "Oh, that band," and I was like, "No, no, no, wait! I know what this is about. I've got some weird old prejudice for whatever reason," and I was like, "This guy's raving about Tool. I'm gonna get into them and listen to them." And now for like a few years, I've been like huge on them, and I've seen
yes,
them live, and I think they're incredible.
yes.
Welcome back to the show. There's no telling where we'll go. So come and share a laugh on the Imp and Skizz podcast.
We're back for another installment of Xisuma. We got him up on the wall here. We got his.
Quit smacking him in the face.
Well, I can do what
Hello.
he gets. Yeah, but I want to take this opportunity to once again thank Xisuma for taking this time and giving us his time. We spent the first installment talking a lot. It was pretty Minecraft centric. I mean, it had different layers. We touched on leadership and stuff like that. And I am willing to bet Minecraft will find its way into this conversation a little bit. It always does a little bit, but we do have the intention to learn a little bit more about Xisuma in regards to who he is, who he was, who he thinks he's going to be, his other passions. I mean, I know a little bit about some of his other passions that I am excited to get into because it's from a musical standpoint. I have a leg to stand on here, so I'm very excited. So again, Xisuma, welcome back. Thank you for your time, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Looking forward to another round of questions.
Yeah, and we got plenty of them. So, for selfish reasons, if we can, I just want to jump in. I just want to jump into the music.
Okay.
I want to go right into it because when he talks about having a band and what that is, when I was younger, I did have my own rock band. I was the drummer for it, and there's something so overwhelmingly special about that chapter of my life that I'm very excited to hear X's journey in this and what compels him to want to make music. I imagine his desire to make music it parallels the desire to make good Minecraft content or to make YouTube content. And just sort of how we got into it and the discipline it takes to pull off that type of music. So tell me, give me you as a musician, you as a member of your band. Tell me about your band. Give it all to me if you would.
First of all, my band is a one-man band, so it's just all me. I've never actually really like played with other musicians. I've tried to make it happen in the past, but I've always just found like I don't know, it's just like more natural to just do everything myself. But you know, as it is for many people, that like strong affinity that some of us develop with music happened in my youth. I had a pretty miserable youth, and so music was like this constant outlet, this constant thing that you could turn to, and it was like there to get you through the tough times. And so I just developed such a deep like connection with it that, you know, to this day, the emotions it can make you feel are just extraordinary. And so being a young person, listening to music, it was also like sort of like the cultural thing that me and all of my friends did growing up. It was all about music. So we have like strong bonds over bands and stuff and going to gigs. And, you know, over the years along the way, I got a guitar. I just started playing and doodling. And I think I like touched on last time how I hit a point in my life where I looked at all of that and decided I'm going to do it properly. And then I took all those songs that I just wrote without thinking about it and then started to try and turn it into something. I had the name Soulside Eclipse, which I came up with, I must have been about like 16. And it was just walking home from school one day and the words just kind of like came together in my head because I feel like when I listen to music, it touches your soul and it's like an eclipse of everything else going on in the world. You're just like in that moment. And creating music did that for me too, which is fascinating because I don't know how you feel about it when you create, but like I can create really dumb stuff. You know, you're just doodling around on a keyboard, and yet it feels just as great as like when you're listening to some of your favorite records. And I know it's not that for anyone else, right? It's just the act of you doing it yourself. So I have this really like deep connection with music, and then the act of me making my own is really deep as well. And yeah, I guess I've made some music in the past, and I've recently gotten back into it again.
So when you say you're a one-man band, you're multiple instruments, or how does that work?
So primarily, I just play the guitar as a performer. I have a drum kit. Back in the day, I used to play it quite a bit. So I could write decent drum beats and stuff for my music. And then I've got keyboards to program stuff on the computer. So I'm not really a keyboard performer, but I can hit the notes and make the sounds, if you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so like I can write all different elements, and then with a keyboard you can write music for all sorts of different instruments like string sections or flutes or whatever it is you want to throw in there. You can do the same thing on the guitar because it all translates. The instrument is often the aesthetic, and then if you're writing something on a guitar, you can translate it to something else. So yeah, those are the main three things. But really, like on a performer, it's just the guitar. Like I play the guitar, and then I can kind of find my way around a drum kit and a keyboard too.
Gotcha.
Yeah, that's impressive.
I've actually seen videos of Xisuma playing guitar where you actually recorded yourself. So you can actually see his biceps, which are actually pretty big. But he covers his face with the Scream mask. You remember the movie Scream? And he's got the long open mouth, black. Yeah, so he's got one of those masks he'll put on his face, and he'll just jam on the guitar, and he can riff. He's got some skills. I've seen it.
So, X, have you ever played with anybody else? You ever had yourself a drummer or jammed with anybody before?
Yeah, I jammed with some friends back in the day, and I think the problem was I was just way more ambitious. I was like, oh, let's get together again and continue working on that song. But for them, it was just like they just wanted to hang out and drink and get high or whatever. That was a common theme I felt in my youth, is that I would be the one, whatever it was we were doing, I would want to like step up and try and make something out of it. Like my mates, I used to think they're hilarious. Well, they are hilarious. You know what it is when you have that sort of like shared comedy between friends.
Yeah.
And I would always just be the one to be like, why don't we try and turn this into something? Like we record it, make videos, like. And yeah, my friends just weren't on that level. So we used to jam and play together, but it would never like manifest into anything serious.
I can, boy, can I identify with that. So I go back and I really, I like I said, having my band back in the day is something I hold dear and very close to my heart, because it was legitimately a couple of the best years of my life. It just was. And making, music that didn't exist before. And when you're done, you have a finished product, and we cut 2 albums, and now I get to have those forever. And that's neat. But there was a bit of contention in the fact that our approaches to the art was a little bit different. Our singer was our leader. There was no question. And he was a pretty good one. He had some things that he could have worked on, but he was sort of a strong arm leader, right? It was going to be his way or it wasn't going to happen. So that was obviously hard to work with, but he did want to be serious. He did want to grow. And so did I. And in terms of our music and everything, I was very, very adamant that we all continuously get better at our craft. And I took the drums extremely seriously, and my guitarist, including the singer, they were, I love them to death, but they were both very, very average guitarists, not because they couldn't be better, because they just didn't work on their craft. And the bassist was good. And I thought but he didn't work on his craft. And it used to cause issues inside our band practices where I'd be like, we've been here a year. You guys are the same stagnant players. You know what I mean? And we would get in these arguments, and I was a young kid and everything, but we'd get in these arguments where I'd just be like, why are you not working on this? Why are you you're the same player you are now than you were a year ago? And we'd have all these problems and these fights and all that. So, like I can identify with that. It's when you're not all on the same page, it's tough, man. It's tough to progress forward. But again, I regret, nothing. I loved it.
So there's an interesting, not a parallel, but something that became quite clear, as you were saying that like the environment of a band, you really have to like come together to create the output. If we just go back to Hermitcraft for a second and think about one of the things that's made it successful, like it's that we don't actually have to all oscillate at the same rate, right? Like, and then there's also like a natural selection of like the people that come here, because you do your own individual thing within the collective. like you attract those like-minded level of people as well. Whereas in music, like, you know, you're going to be stuck with that person, right? Like, and if they're going to go at a different pace, that's going to like slow everyone down when it comes to
Yep.
like you were saying, trying to like level up and get to the next stage as a band.
Yeah.
Yeah, you definitely have to you have faith in each other and rely on each other to make a common product, right? Where content creation is a little bit different. You know, you can we have the ability to pick and choose who we work with, basically, or who we want to collab with, and that can change if you. I've had those days too where I'm just like, I'm not feeling very like open today. You know what I mean? Like I want to be outgoing and even talk to anyone else. I'm just gonna go solo. You know, go do my solo thing.
Yeah.
You know, but when you're in a band and you're stepping into a studio or on stage, that you don't have that option, right?
Yeah.
So it's
You
a
got to
different
show
scenario
up
for sure.
Yeah, I remember I wanted my job. I wanted to be the best drummer for those guys. Then the best version of myself as a drummer. That's what I wanted to be for them. And you're right. You got to be on the same page. But all right, maybe one day, X. Maybe there's a jam session in our future.
Dude, Xisuma, like there's
People want that.
So many people have said, because they know I'm a drummer, and Xisuma's a guitarist, that we should get together. And in fact, Xisuma, you had an album that you put together. We're skipping, you know, from early on to now, but you recently had an album that you'd put together, and people were like, you should drum to it. You know, like they wanted me to drum to it so bad. And I was like, yeah, that could be a thing. Or maybe someday, Xisuma, you can make a song and send it to me and I'll do the drum beats or something. Like, we definitely should.
Totally do that. Man. I can hook you up with the drumless track, you know.
Yeah, that would be...
Strip the drums out for you.
That would be stellar. People would love that. We think back of like collabing on music together. We actually have done a collaboration, but it was a lot different. It was a rap. It was Hermit Gang. Tell us about like when that project came about. What was going on in your mind? Like,
dude,
how did you feel about that?
I was so hyped. I have loved hip hop and rap from as long as I can remember. And I always fancied like I said, back in the day I wrote poetry. So like I got this like idea of how to string together sentences and put rhymes in there and stuff. And when I found out we were going to do a rap, I was immediately in a notepad writing down ideas, finding rhyming words. I absolutely loved, and I don't care that it's like goofy and it's like a Minecraft rap. It was just so much fun. And every now and then I go back and listen to it again, and like everyone just sounds amazing on it. It was one of these really unique things to come out of Hermitcraft, right?
Something nobody would have ever seen coming. We never thought in a million years we'd make a rap song.
We never saw it coming.
Yeah. And it's funny because like you said, it's just like this thing that it came together so well, and I was so happy with the way it came out. And none of us are professional rappers, so it's, of course, you know, we're no Eminems, but like it was good. It is a bop. Like I play it on my stream all the time. It's a nice break song. Like, it's a perfect length for me to go get water and hit the restroom or whatever and come back. And then by the time I come back, because my verse is later in the song, I'm actually able to like listen to my own verse. And I think also Xuma's and Ren's as well, I catch all the time. And it's just like every time I hear it, I'm like, I can't believe we made this. You know what I mean? I'm like so happy with ourselves for doing something crazy like that.
Again, that was one of those stepping into a discomfort. I didn't even think in those terms, actually. I was so excited to give it a try. But I imagine for yourself, or maybe some of the others, like, again, there's always going to be some discomfort with doing something like that, right? You know, putting yourself out there. You're a Minecraft creator, and now you're doing a rap. Like,
yeah.
I think we pulled it off. I think we did like something really good. It would be quite easy to get that really wrong, but we got the tone spot on, I think.
Yeah, I didn't at the time know it was going to go somewhere. I thought it was just a goofy little idea that would maybe not actually come to fruition. And so, like, now knowing what happened, what the outcome of it was, I'm like, I wish I had recorded about 10 more takes of my rap, you know what I mean? Just to make sure it was like great, you know? But yeah, who knows? I might not have been any better.
Man, that's what a cool thing. So you clearly have the ability to exercise pretty intense focus. And you've mentioned, X, that, you had your youth, you maybe were a little bit misguided. And I'm not trying to cross any lines here, but I am curious in regards to who you were as a child, right? I like to know this about people because, I was you would never think it now, but like for me personally, when I was young, I was extremely sports oriented. I started drumming in fourth grade, but I wouldn't even say I started drumming until high school, but I was so sports oriented that my family, my brothers tell me now, and when I was doing my rock band, they were like, we never saw this coming. We thought that you were going to definitely do sports throughout high school. And I didn't do any sports. And I did, but not like, I wasn't serious. Talk to me about X. Let me hear about you as a kid. What is it that made you tick and what got your attention?
Oh, it's interesting that you say like childhood because I don't think I knew who I was as a child. I don't think I was very self-aware, conscious, or maybe even awake. This is something I've talked about on stream, so it might sound really strange. There's quite a few other people that have this experience too, of their childhood just sort of, you're more of like a blank slate. You've not got much going on. I had interests, but like they weren't passions. I played with Connects or Legos, but like it never really meant much. I kind of, the start of who I am, I think, was when I was a teenager, just one day waking up in a miserable situation, and I don't know, in a weird way, it felt like the start of everything. Um, and that's when I realized that I had this sort of like deep connection to music around that time as well. And so, just, I don't want to harp on about it, but it was like coming from a rotten place. I really feel like I became who I am through that, and who I am today really is just the escape of that, the personal growth and the development away from it. So like as a child, there was like really nothing until I was a teenager, and I discovered that I have this creative passion for music and stuff.
So as a teenager to kind of wake up one day and realize that you're not in the place that you want to be, and maybe consider rock bottom or whatever you want to say, I'm guessing that's pretty common with a lot of teenagers, especially around that age. And what would you say? What, like at this point in time, now that you've woken up, you've transformed into the human you are now, what do you think was like a catalyst for that turnaround, and what were things that you did that you could maybe give advice to any of our listeners that might be waking up today in that space you found yourself many years ago?
Yeah, you need to find voices that you connect with. You need to find ideas that give you a sort of positivity that you can action upon. Maybe it's not even positive. Maybe it's just like rational. Maybe it's just a path to walk on. Because I never had that. I never had someone who would push me in the right direction. I went in all the wrong directions and did all the wrong things. And when I hit rock bottom years later, a figure for me who was massively influential was Henry Rollins. He was saying so many things in both his music and his stand-up that I could relate to. But then here he was, this figure who had done so much with his life, and it kind of started to give me that impetus of pursuing that creativity and making something out of yourself. So I would say, like, if you can find that action of just trying to find something that helps you, keep doing that. Keep searching until you find it, because in your life you're going to need ideas that can build up who you are. You're going to have to get those in there, learn about them, and then act upon them. So like the quicker you can get that process started, then you can go on that journey of personal growth. And for me, like, I'm not going to say unfortunately, it came across quite late, but like, I mean, it got me here now, so I've got no complaints. Like, I look back at the past now as well. That was rough at the time, but here I am now. It's worked out okay, and I think for anyone who's in a rough spot, things can turn around.
It's a good testament that it can happen, right? You can get out of whatever kind of dark situation you're in and make something happen if you're willing to put that first step. Take that first step and head in a direction that's going to be positive.
you got to find the right people, like you're saying, find the right voices, and surround yourself with the right people. You know me, Impulse, everything to me, I'd see the whole world in metaphors. I can't help but do that. And I'm seeing like something interesting with X here is he's very clearly a very expressive person. And I feel like he's mentioned this a couple times, and it also touches something with me when I was younger. And actually, you do know this about me. I used to write a lot of poetry. You know what I mean? I used to do that, and it was a way of expressing myself. And it was always when there was turmoil or something that it would always come out in some sort of form of poetry, or something very positive would also come out in a form of poetry. And being expressive and needing to do that, I kind of picture this like it's like a faucet, right? You turn on a faucet, and some people's flow is a little bit different than others. But you see, in X's case, everything is starting to add up for me on why he blew up and why he became as successful as he did, because he was basically a water balloon attached to that faucet, and everything was being subdued. So the fact that he has this expressive bone, or this need to create, this need to give to the ether, that's been in him his whole life. But the circumstances kind of blocked the flow, but it blocked it in the store. It just stored up in him and built and built and built. And all of a sudden he made that shift, and that shift is the explosion of the water balloon. And the world was blessed, you know, and all of a sudden, and it just kept going. And so not only did all this expression come out of him, but the flow was, we never turned the faucet off, and he's just been going all this time. Yeah. It's interesting, man. The world's,
that's really insightful. Like, wow. That's ticked my mind over. I'm really thinking about that. Yeah, that makes so much sense. So much sense.
It's good.
So one thing that you've been doing, in addition to the other million things you're doing, is you do like a blog where you review albums. And I am super impressed at how diligent you are at doing it. I mean, I see them come out all the time, and every time I see one come out, I'm like, when did he have the time to sit down and listen to an entire album and then document his feelings about that album? And the other thing I think of when I see your blogs is you have such a wide range of genres that you cover. So you truly do immerse yourself in music from all walks of life, pretty much. Tell me how that came about, and what you like, what drives you to continue to do that when you have so much going on in your life already?
Good question.
It's the blogs, they basically write themselves. So my passion of music sort of manifests in this way where, like, when I look back at how I was with my friends growing up, I'm the guy who keeps bugging you to listen to this record, that one, you're like this, you should check those out, you know? But it's because I've got so much passion, and also I like pick up on what other people like. So if they like that band, I hear something about them in this band over here, and you know, it just like lights up my brain so much. Music does that. It almost bugs me in a way. Like I want to just waffle and talk about it, and rather than, you know, barking at other people about how great I think this record is, I just decided, you know, I'm going to start writing about it and do it as a blog. And it just became really therapeutic. You get it all off your chest, all those feelings and thoughts, and the excitement of the music just turns into words. And so now it's like, you know, you asked like, how do I get the time? I'm always listening to music. If I'm on the go, or if I'm recording a Minecraft video, there's music in the background. And it's like I've got two brains. I can totally take it all in while I'm doing something else. And over the course of like getting through a record, the words will just like come together. And so every now and then there's like half an hour to sit down, type. There it is, post it, and like and off you go, you know. As for the broadness of the music that I like, when I was growing up, like there would be some bands that I would like, and I would show to friends, and they'd be like, "Nah, they suck." And it baffled me, right? But then it took me time to realize I do that to other bands too. I'm like, well, they suck. For example, I never used to like Iron Maiden, which is like blasphemy. And then when I started going to festivals, I would get exposed to more music, and Iron Maiden were playing, and me and all my mates were like sitting around in a tent. And I was sort of like, yeah, Iron Maiden, they're not very good, are they? But we should probably go check them out, right? And everyone's like, nah, they suck. We'll stay here. And then I'll be like, yeah. And then like, you know, a few minutes will pass, and they'll be like, yeah, I can hear Iron Maiden playing. Should we go watch them? And everyone's like, no. And then eventually I was like, okay, right, I'm going to go by myself. And then I absolutely just fell in love with it.
Yeah.
And I realized that the problem is that I'm trying to hear myself in someone else's music. Whereas if I try and hear what they're about, you can experience other worlds, other perspectives. And why I didn't pick up on this sooner is really weird because one of the first groups that I really got into was NWA. And what they were talking about was so alien to me. I was literally, flown across the world to LA and realizing how different life was for people in that environment. And there's a lot of that in hip hop. And then other musics express different perspectives and whatnot. And so over time, I've just slowly learned that lesson. And then when I realized that I'd learned that lesson, it just made everything so much easier to listen to because now I can just go and listen to pop music and try and like hear what the artist is trying to say or some obscure noise music or whatever. And it's like about finding that connection with what they're trying to express. And then you can experience like essentially what they're feeling, right? And so that's why I like such a broad like lay of music.
So let's unpack this a little bit because we're using music as the nucleus of this conversation. But what you're talking about, the implications of that sort of human approach, the implications supersede music on a very great level. Just in terms of when you said that you were trying to find, see how you identified with that music or trying to see yourself in the music. And that sort of blocked you. You shed your old skin and you just opened your mind and you ended up enjoying stuff that you were likely not going to enjoy had you not taken that step of vulnerability. We can do, just the world in general like this, the world needs more of that in terms of what it is to actually identify with a different type of people or culture that is, he used the word alien. That was the perfect word.
Yeah.
He didn't use the word different. He used the word alien. He was that separated from that reality, but when X opened his mind to it, he's able to appreciate it on a very, very deep level. That could translate just to just life.
Yeah.
Just life.
It's like that phrase, like walk a mile in someone else's shoes.
Yes, dude.
When you accept the fact that their message is going to be different than yours, and you can appreciate it for what it is and learn from it, then it's a different ballgame.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That and sometimes, and unfortunately, sometimes it has to be forced upon you. I can't believe I'm going to say this. I'm going to out myself. There was a while there that I quite literally had great disdain for the band Rage Against the Machine when I was younger. When I first started hearing them because I just couldn't get my head wrapped around Zach's voice. I didn't like his voice. And it felt like there was just too much complaining going on, and my buddy would play every day, and it just started to bug me. And then I liked them a little bit more. And then I got to a point to where I stopped listening and I just started reading the lyrics out of the album cover. And I would read it. I'm like, oh, this guy's an incredible poet. And then all of a sudden I'm really into the music, and I realized that the guitarist actually went to Juilliard, and I'm like learning all these things. And then next thing I know, my favorite singer in the world, Maynard James Keenan, sings a little cameo on one of I'm off to the races. Had I not been forced on it, it never would have happened. If I didn't have the insight to open myself up the way X did, and had I done that, I would have learned a lot quicker. And I've cut myself off. My wife refers to me as a music snob. I don't think I am. I like a lot of different stuff, but I know for a fact that I am not as open as what the story that X just illustrated. I got to give that a go.
Speaking of Maynard, he just opened like a winery restaurant.
Yeah.
Like near us.
In Cottonwood.
In Cottonwood. We got to go check it out. Also, Xisuma, I believe
I got a great anecdote here for what you just said, Skizz.
Do it.
Do you want to know what one of my hardest ones to get past was? It was Tool. For the longest time, we all hated Tool. They were Tools. We weren't interested. And then again, it just I think it was Ren. Yeah, Ren was like, "Oh, I'm a huge Tool fan," and I was like, "Oh, that band," and I was like, "No, wait, I know what this is about. I've got some weird old prejudice for whatever reason," and I was like, "This guy's raving about Tool. I'm gonna get into them and listen to them." And now for like a few years, I've been like huge on them.
Yes!
And I've seen them live, and I think they're incredible.
Yes.
And it was just because I had a stupid idea in my head that apparently I didn't like that band. I couldn't even tell you why, you know?
That's incredible. My journey with Tool, and that they are my number one, and they have been for decades. My journey is the same guy who forced Rage Against the Machine on me. I wouldn't want to say forced, because I'd never had a problem with Tool, but I just didn't really focus. And he would just play Tool a lot as well. And he knew me. He's like, you're going to, it's going to happen for you. And it did, again, decades ago. And I started studying them, and I was studying Danny Carey, their drummer, for years and years. And I was just,
good drummer.
he is so good. He is so good. And he's so innovative. And when you hear his disposition and how he approaches his craft, he's just like people ask him, how is it that anybody can get this good at something? And he's like, just don't ever be okay with where you are. That's it. And
I thought, wasn't he like classically trained? Didn't he go to like some major music school too? I'd have to look it up. I might be mistaken, but yeah, I thought I heard that about him. Xisuma, you did go back to Maynard, you did a review on, was it Perfect Circle, or was it, what was that other?
Pussifer?
Yeah, Pussifer. Which I thought I saw a blog you did lately on one of Maynard's other bands.
Perfect Circle, Pussifer. I think I've heard a couple of songs on it. It's like one of those things I want to get around to, but there's like a million things I want to get around to. So I checked out a Perfect Circle, and I could find some songs that I really liked on their records, but then other stuff that I just wasn't really connecting with so much. But when you do find that little connection, and they go on the favorites list, and like, I use Spotify now. I didn't for the longest time. I resisted. But when it shuffles them back on, and each time you hear it, you just get into it that little bit more. So yeah, I really do like them. And then I think I've written about all the Tool records now, including their latest. And fingers crossed they'll make another one as well, hopefully, because they're fantastic musicians.
Not to turn this into a Tool podcast.
But I could do it.
But they had a history where they did not want their music on these digital platforms like Spotify. And there was a reason for it. They didn't like the idea of people listening to their songs, like in picking and choosing their songs from like a greatest hits list or anything like that, because they felt like their entire album was one giant song, one giant artwork piece of music. And so they resisted forever, but thankfully they are on Spotify, because I did just go through their entire discography. When I go to the gym and I'm on the treadmill, it's my favorite thing to do. And I'm pretty sure like everybody in the gym thinks I'm weird, because I'm always drumming on the treadmill as I'm listening to Tool in the gym. But
me too.
It is fantastic. They are just they're such a great. I'm glad you came around, X. I'm glad. We'll have to thank Ren for giving you another nudge in that direction.
All the thanks to Ren. All the thanks.
I already hold Ren in very high regard, and I didn't think it'd get higher. It got higher because he brought this gift to X.
Yeah.
This is a big deal. Man, good on you, Ren. Man.
What's funny is that like they should have fit perfectly into the kind of music I like. Like I was always into the weird, obscure metal with like odd time signatures, like Meshuggah being a huge one. And they are just so in that lane of like artistry with using musical we can say oddities, but like it's not common to use different sort of time signatures and patterns and stuff, right, that they do. That was totally up my alley, and I completely missed it.
It's just incredible. They're my understanding is because, so this is a funny thing about now that we're talking a little, I'm not going to make it a Tool podcast, but just a little bit more. So there's, I heard this really funny story. I don't know what it was, but I was talking about Tool or something. And as a drummer, I can sit in for a band, right? Almost any band, right? Because most stuff is just 4/4. You hit on 2 and 4 with the snare, you're good to go. I've done a live concert before with a band where I was hearing their music for the very first time while I was playing it, right? And it blew everybody away, but it was like, no, I'm not saying that their music is simplistic, but it falls in line with, most 4/4 music. Okay. And the bassist did a good job communicating with me. But anyways, you talk about that story, and any drummer, and I've always referred to myself as fantastically average when it comes to drum set, but any drummer can do that. You can do it. We can do it. Right. I heard a story of a guy who, there was a Tool cover band, and their drummer couldn't make the show or whatever. And so they got another drummer to fill in. They're like, you want to fill in for us? And he comes over to practice, and like, so you're familiar with Tool? He's like, nah, I never really listened to Tool. And they're all, oh, well, that's gonna be a problem. And he's like, no, just go ahead and play. I'll just join in. They're all, yeah, it doesn't work like that. It does. It's too deliberate, and that's my understanding is the way they make their music is they actually make all the music first. And then Maynard gets it, and Maynard lets the music marinate, and the words are come after the fact. I don't know how true that is, but when I think about it and I listen to the music, I'm like, no, it makes perfect sense because what they're just jamming, but they're jamming very deliberate, structured jamming that's musically beautiful. And then Maynard takes that and he finds a way to put lyrics on top of it, and then now you have yourself a masterpiece.
He's doing his winery.
Yeah. Jeez.
Anyway, so we've been talking about music quite a bit, but there's a lot more to Xisuma than just music and just Minecraft and YouTube. You mentioned kind of turning your life around in a way, and one thing that I've taken some inspiration from watching you do, Xisuma, is your healthy habits, right? Like you have shared some of the food habits that you have kind of like molded over the past, at least since I've known you. You've talked about some of the things that you've changed diet wise. You've talked about some of your exercise routine habits and stuff like that. Let's talk a little bit about that. Like what was your driving factor for becoming like healthy in when we're talking about food and exercise regimens?
Yeah, I think it stems from two things. One was just one day, I started to become a bit more conscious of my health as I was getting older, and I looked at one of those BMI indexes for like height and weight, and those things are, perhaps averagely accurate on a statistical, like on a demographic level, but maybe on an individual level they're more dubious. But it put me at just under the overweight marker for my height. And it kind of made me quite self-conscious. And then I was like, I think I need to like change something here. So I would then start cycling. I was like cycling every single day for a year. And then I felt like I wanted to go further. So I started running and lifting weights. And then, like that became a routine. And I would get more and more interested in this stuff. So when I first learned about it, it was very like rudimentary. It was like, oh, okay, yeah, go for a run. I get it. But then I guess I got kind of like deeper and deeper into it. And then podcasting became a huge thing. And you can find a lot of people who are very knowledgeable in this stuff, sharing a lot of information about, the details of all of that. So it went from doing the basics to becoming sort of a passion. And again, part of the whole like personal growth thing. Another factor that really motivated me, as I mentioned, like struggled in my youth, and we would now obviously call that like mental health. So I also learned that taking care of your body will take care of your mind. The more you exercise and stay in good condition, it has a really positive effect on your feelings.
Yes.
And so that gave me a huge drive to continue. And yeah, that's just gotten to the point where I've just learned tons about diet. I eat extremely healthy and lean, and I only eat 2 meals a day now. And I have a exercise regimen that means that I'm, putting a couple of hours at least into exercise every day. And that's become my routine because I started a long time ago and I didn't jump in the deep end. I just, started with something simple, which was get on the bike every day. And it's kind of like building a wall, you just place down a brick at a time, and then you get to a place where you're really healthy, and I really value that immensely, and so I keep on it every day, and keeps me feeling good.
Yeah, it sounds like
Wow.
So we did a podcast on building habits, right?
Yeah.
Building up good habits. And
that's what I was looking for.
Yeah, and I think did you have a chance to listen in on that one, Xisuma? I know you said you listened to some of ours.
I'm pretty sure I did.
Yeah.
That's the sort of topic that really I really like, because that was a big impact on me when I found that sort of advice of all this stuff you're doing, think about it through the lens of habits. And it's like, oh, there's all these like simple routine things that you do in your day, and you can just add little blocks onto it of, I don't know, like stretching or going for a walk after you eat, and they just become so natural, they become like effortless. And so yeah, when you put things through the lens of habits, you can kind of just make things so much easier on yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember you telling stories about like how this all came about, and when it first started, you know, like you said, you started with just cycling a little bit, and then you added on, okay, now I'm gonna start eating a little bit more, and it just kind of like clicked for me that like you automatically were doing habit chaining, you know, like and that's something that we talked about in our podcast, and I was like, this is before our podcast, obviously, so you must have either just innately been aware that that's what it was going to take to drive you to the place you wanted to be, or had you done some sort of research in habit building, you know, or did it just come natural?
It was just a case of being driven by the goal of like getting better and knowing that I need to do that each day. When I learned about the idea of it, of like habits, it was like I don't know, not like a eureka moment, but sort of realizing, oh, that's kind of what I've been doing. But then having the language of habits all of a sudden made it easier to look at in a way that you can like manipulate and interact with better. And so like was it his name, James Clear? Atomic Habits was the
Yep,
big book
sounds
that
right.
did the rounds. Yeah, like after reading that, it was just wow. It took it to another level. There are all these other little things you can do to like build up your habits, and it all really helps.
Yeah, absolutely. I recommend that book as well. I read it, and that's what led me to want to talk about habits. Was I had read that book. I think you're right. James Clear, Atomic Habits was the name of the book. So definitely a good read. I don't know if we mentioned it during the podcast
I
at
don't
all.
think so, unless I'm just not
Yeah,
remembering.
that would have been a good shout to anybody that was looking to dive a little deeper into what we were talking about. But after hearing X's journey with tackling health and from an exercise and from a food standpoint, and I read that book and I was like, he knew what he was doing. Like it all just kind of clicked.
What's the guy's name?
James Clear, I think it was.
James Clear.
Yeah.
Pops into my head. Usually I'm really bad at remembering stuff
Yeah,
on the spot
name
like that.
Atomic Habits is the title of the book for sure. And then we think it's the author's James
Hey
Clear.
man, we may have stumbled on it. I think X's real name is James Clear.
Yeah,
he's plugging his own book.
No, I think I listened to the audiobook and it was actually him narrating, and he did not sound like X. So he might be a voice modulator. I don't know, but
you know, I saw this this one-liner that was so astute that it said, I'm not trying to get deliberate about the concept of depression, but it was quite literally about depression. And it said, I believe that depression is real. I believe depression is a very real thing. However, I also believe that if you don't eat right, you don't exercise, you don't get the right sleep, you don't surround yourself with the right people, you're not giving yourself a fighting chance.
yeah,
You know, and it was so X touched on something there in regards to like he developed these really healthy habits, and this is a very healthy lifestyle that I'm listening to, and it's okay. Well, decision made. I'm going to come live with you for like a year, X, and I'm just going to do what you tell me to do. And then we're going to make a whole better Skizz.
yeah. No, I'm with you though. Like on the like exercise helps mentally, because I will find myself in one of those like ruts where I just couldn't muster the energy to stick to my exercise routine, and it'll a week or two will go by, and suddenly I'm in this like weird dark cloud of negativity, and I'm like, what's going on here? Why am I so like snapping at people, or like every day feels like a burden, and that kind of stuff? You get in that mood, and I was like, oh, there it is. I'm not eating right. I'm not exercising like I should be.
Deal.
And then I take that first step and I get back into that regiment that I know works for me. And next thing I know, like I'm in a positive space again, and my mental attitude has just completely changed. It's crazy.
Yeah. I feel like that feeling is waiting for me every day, which is why I like start like my morning routine is all walking, stretching, working out, and then eating, and then like that is always the first thing every day, right? Is like getting straight into that, because once I've done it, then the rest of the day it feels like you're just free. You're not going to feel that way.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you're not going to have that lethargy. But you know, you were saying like a couple of weeks can go by. I think something that's really important to consider is that like when we think about working out and exercising, often it's all about, you know, putting in the most amount of time, energy, and effort, and you know, all of that kind of stuff. Whereas sometimes you need to just do a little bit. Like a half-ass workout is better than no workout.
Mm-hmm.
The goal isn't not to work out. It's just that some days it's hard to get to that thing. And so when you're not feeling like it, don't picture like that really hard workout. Just like, what's the minimum that I would do right now? You know? and then do that and see if you've got room for a little bit more. And if you don't, that's all right. Like, but you want to always try and do something, I think.
Yeah, I think that was one of the
most
things
important.
that James Clear, I hope we got his name right, was saying was like, don't focus on that. Just focus on putting your shoes on. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like just tie up your laces and then see where it goes. You know, don't think about the next thing. And
there was a lot of wisdom in that book.
Yeah. So yeah, that's a nugget I got from that as well. But it is interesting how, you know, you can sometimes just lose the desire, the discipline, and it gets harder, right, to take that first step.
Yeah, it does. And that, boy, X, you could be a motivational speaker, buddy. This is like, it's a whole nother level of being inspired and just taking that first step. And here's a microcosm example of this. You know, I'm short a car right now, right? My car is no good. And I wanted to get a haircut, not only for this podcast, but I want to make sure I have a haircut before we go to TwitchCon. And there's a very good chance I'm not going to have any time to do it before we leave, even though it's not for several days. And yesterday I was like, I got caught up on work, and I'm like, I want to get, how am I going to, I don't have a car. How am I going to get there? I don't want to Uber there and all whatever. And I realized, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to book it. I'm just going to book it. So I booked it online, and I was like, well, I got to get there now. And so I did the math, and I put my shoes on, and I walked 2 miles to go get a haircut. And then I walked the 2 miles back, and I was perfect. It was perfectly fine. All I had to do was get started. It was the same thing as you putting on your shoes, right? Yeah. And X is talking about, like, it sounds like X has obviously a really good regiment, but I'm seeing his regiment in his discipline as kind of a common theme of who he is in regards to, he's an activator. You know what I mean? He's an activator. He knows what it is to see something that should be, and he knows what it is to pull the triggers that need to happen and drive towards that thing. And it goes all the way into apparently why he's got these, I don't know, great biceps, as you put them, right? Everything is all tied together. So it kind of makes me want to ask you this question, X. There, no Minecraft, no YouTube, whatever. Well, who are you? What are you doing with your life? Because it's very clear that you've got a lot to offer the world. And who are you if you're not doing what you're doing now?
That is just the most unbelievably difficult question to answer, I feel like.
He's like, wait a minute, you guys didn't send me this question in advance. I haven't been able to think about it.
This is what I do.
Yeah. Well, you know, like, because I don't feel like I am a Xisuma or a Xisuma Void, right? Like, I'm very aware that, like, this is a space I step into, and there's a persona as a front here, but then in another way, who I am, like you were saying, with the discipline and the creativity, it all just bleeds through anyway. So I'm not driven by the status that this brings. I'm driven by the experience. And that experience is often expressing creativity. So I feel like it's hard for me to picture doing something different. And there isn't, I don't know, there doesn't feel like there's too many other opportunities, right? Like, at least ones that are also living. If money wasn't an issue, the answer's so simple. I would just be doing music if I couldn't do this, you know. That's completely solved for me. Yeah, there was some other point here I was about to land on, and then I distracted myself with the music thing. But I think I was trying to say that I'm just creative. Like, there's always going to be something that I want to get out of myself. And so that's probably who I am. You know, just someone with this brain that's like overactive, and it just needs to be put out there somehow.
I think Skizz landed on something though. Like you definitely have the ability to be a positive influence, right? Whether it's through your Minecraft videos or just sharing stories of things that you're doing that's working for you, through your workout regimens and eating habits and you know, discipline towards learning your craft when it comes to music or video creation, whatever. You know, you could be a public speaker. As much as, you know, that's probably terrifying to hear, but I mean, you're basically doing it right now. You're just
mask on.
Yeah, exactly. Just put your screen mask on, mic up, and go give people some inspiration, because that's what I've gotten out of you since my time knowing you is just how much of a positive influence you are. Always positive messages, always very understanding of people, of all facets, and just understanding humankind and emphasis on the kind, You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
that's who I've seen you as. And I think that because that's your aura, like that kind of aura needs to be spread to the world, and you're doing it. You found yourself a platform to do it. But if this wasn't your platform, I think you would gravitate towards another platform that's in a similar type of arena. You know?
Yeah. That because
Yeah, I think
no, you
maybe
go.
what you're touching on there is perhaps what's in the Asuma Says channel to some extent, right? Like
Mm.
Hmm.
I've through streaming opened me up a lot more. It was no longer just Minecraft tutorials and things about Minecraft. It became more personal, and through that, I do feel like I have this thing in me where it's like, you know, you look at I think you said it was like kindness, but I look out into the world, and when there's like conflict and disagreement and stuff, I never like feel like I want to be on one side of that. I always just want to like, what's the thing that would just bring it all together and make it okay? And so I think like with my talkie channel, there's a lot of that on there, and maybe, you know, sowing the seeds for something in the future to be different. Like you said, maybe it was a different platform, but it might still be on YouTube. Maybe one day I'm no longer making Minecraft content, but maybe making more thought content and, you know, motivational stuff with discipline and whatnot. So, you know, that could be like my post Minecraft thing, really.
Yeah,
Just doing something like
you're
that.
kind of inadvertently making a podcast on your Xisuma Says channel, right? You know,
That's what people say. Yeah, they
it-
say it's like a podcast.
yeah, exactly. So you're there. I mean, you obviously have some things to share with the world. I wanna ask you one thing though, because I found it hard to handle, you know, negativity, you know, when it comes my way, right? We've talked about this, Skizz and I have talked about this a lot of times in the podcast about how I handle negative comments and things like that. I'm curious how you handle them when you have people saying, "Oh, Xisuma, you're terrible at this," or your take on something is bad, things like that. Like, do you find, because like you just said, you make yourself pretty vulnerable on these live streams. You speak your mind, and not everybody is going to. Nobody ever agrees on everything, right?
Sure.
So how do you handle that? Like, what are your feelings when you get a little bit of pushback on some of your thoughts and opinions on things?
I think feelings is really the key word, and it's like the thing that I've learned over time because I've told myself lots of different stories, like I care or don't care, it's this or that. But it's really just to acknowledge your feelings, because your feelings come at you on that sort of irrational level, whereas usually what you're talking about, you're trying to express some form of like rationality. So when people come back at you with negativity, it feels like, you know, you haven't been seen eye to eye, and it can make you defensive. But I think in the environment we're in, the negativity that we see, there's definitely some of it out there, but I feel like the nature of the environment actually fosters a lot of negativity. You know, humans weren't really supposed to communicate through lines of text. You'll know, Impulse, from the many messages we have exchanged. You can tell if you're talking to me or not, because every sentence has a smiley face in it, is usually how I roll.
Me too.
Yeah, it's like I always want to make sure my messages don't come off as mean in any way. And so when you're reading those comments online, you can very easily interpret them in a negative way. So I think a lot of it that's out there that we see, you know, we're content creators, we're expressing ourselves, and that's like a vulnerable thing to do in a way with your creativity. And so you feel sensitive about it, and you see those comments, and it can hurt you when you feel like people have missed what you're about or what you're saying. But
Mhm.
I think a lot of it is just the nature of typing comments online. It just doesn't have all of what talking to people in
Correct.
person has. You can hear intonation in voice, you can see body language. Here's an interesting example, right? We got the mob vote thing going on in the Minecraft community, and in the past, I've been a bit on the side of complaining about it because it can set people up for disappointment. Here are these three options. You get to imagine how amazing they can be, and then we give you one, and we're probably going to underdeliver on your expectations. Now, this year, it's gotten really bad. There's been like a campaign going around trying to boycott it and say we should add all three, and now people are saying like, they're showing us ideas that we'll never be able to have into Minecraft. And I feel like some of this is essentially like worst possible interpretation. This thing is going on, and we're just interpreting it in a really bad way. And we should acknowledge it for what it is. It's just a simple, light-hearted way to create some fun and engagement with the community, to obviously promote the game from a marketing standpoint. It obviously gets people talking about it. But look at all the negativity that stems from this. And when you read comments about the mob vote, which I've been reading a few of recently on my videos, you just see that language. And I think, like, if we were in person chatting about why we don't like this mob, but we think this one's better, it would just be like, you know, a bunch of people sitting around having a fun conversation, having laughs, and sort of half debating seriously or not. But then online, it just looks different. It looks so radical. It looks like people are really distressed over this, right? You know, it's the online nature that's making this negativity really difficult for us.
Well, I think you nailed it when you talked about that we weren't really meant to communicate just through text like this. And like, if you think about it, not all people have a real craft for the pen, right? Not all people know how to put string words together in order to get the right message across. And those who are very good at it are known as authors, right? And even in that respect, it's a single direction that the communication is traveling. It's going in one direction. And even in that respect, they have the luxury of taking a lot of time and thinking about what they're going to say and then deleting it and then going back and then it running through an editor. So our exposure throughout these many generations to text communication has been through the optics of professionals. And now all of a sudden a keyboard's been put at the fingertips of everybody on the planet, and people aren't thinking about what they're saying. And for that reason, people aren't thinking about what they're reading. So we can take, for example, not some of the negative comments that you might get, Impulse. They might be negative, or they might not be.
They might be negative at all. Right? So I might have read the tone wrong.
Exactly, and that's what's so funny is that, like, you will say it. So Impulse will say to me, X, he'll be like, "Oh man, I read this comment. I'm just making it up. Like, Impulse, I don't think you should do it that way." Whatever. I'm just making up words or whatever, right? But instead of reading Impulse, I don't think you should do it that way. When Impulse tells me the story, I got this comment, Impulse, I don't think you should do it that way. And you give it this like tone where I'm like,
it is.
I'm like, dude, that's probably not their tone, bro. but because you're
because I didn't work out that day.
Yeah, because you didn't work. Yeah, that's right. You didn't exercise, and so you're grumpy. No.
Most people are decent, right? So just when you're online and you're reading those comments, like, you know, try and program yourself every time you feel that like negative reaction. Just imagine they're like the most enthusiastic commenter ever. Like, they love your episodes, and it's like, Impulse, I didn't really like that build, you know. But like, they're thinking the bit they haven't written is like, but I love all of your other builds.
Right. Yep.
And actually, that one was pretty good. It was just my least favorite.
Yep. And they think that the fact that they love everything else you've done, they think it's implied. Right. And so, because that's what they're feeling while they're writing the only thing that you're actually reading. So it could be argued that when it comes to mankind's ability to communicate through text in these very quick fashions like this, we are quite clearly in our adolescence. We are, it's going to take a while for us to really understand what this craft is to communicate on this medium. And we're just, it's turmoil right now. You need people like X to clear it up for us.
You mentioned like the author. That's like a lot of work to communicate, right? And now we're dealing with this incredibly low barrier of entry where it's like you can think something and broadcast it to everyone in seconds. And a lot of the things that you think, if you have to stew on it for a few minutes later you're like, yeah, that's dumb. But now people are just living with letting whatever pops into the head like straight out onto the internet.
Yeah, and I think some people are just using it as like a pressure valve, right? So like if they're in a bad spot or whatever, and they're feeling low, and they want to just vent a little bit, just to release some of that pressure, you know, they'll just throw it on the internet, and that's how they get it out. That's their venting mechanism, and then that gets consumed by whoever comes across it, and now all of a sudden it's just this like negative energy that you just released into the wild, you know?
I did a going deep with Skizz moment where I talked about be deliberate about your words because you never know when you're imprinting, right? Sometimes you do or say something and you don't, not all people have the intention of imprinting, but sometimes you'll say just the right or just the wrong thing at just the wrong time. And now you've imprinted on somebody's mind and it's going to resonate with them sometimes for the rest of their life because you just didn't stop and think a little bit, you know? So we find ourselves in that space. So, hey, X, who are you 20 years from now? What do you like? You have so many great things.
You wait till almost an hour into the podcast to drop like the hardest
because
questions
I find
ever.
him fascinating, and I'm very into the strength of his character.
Yeah.
I'm very into who he is, and I don't expect him to have these answers. But there's a lot of things going well for X in his life because he has made it so. And I think we've identified his ability to see what needs to happen and make that thing a reality. Is a skill set that he very, very much has. So to that end, who are you in 20 years? Are you still doing this? Is there another plane of existence that you want to get to? What are we dealing with here?
Well, if you'd asked me that like maybe 5-10 years ago, I would have been scared to death of answering that question. But I think very recently I've kind of settled into this, I don't know, sort of comfort with myself and where I'm going. Where I feel like wherever I'll be happy. I feel like I've figured out the tools I need to, get to where I want to go. But maybe I just don't know where that is on a 20-year time horizon. But I am, I've got some projects that I'm not going to talk about, but like stuff that I'm working on behind the scenes. In fact, some of it I've been working on for a couple of years that will hopefully at some point in the future manifest into something I get to share with everyone and create content with and whatnot. And I'm hoping that I am like paving a path for another avenue, another career potentially. So, yeah, I've got things in the works that are maybe not a 20-year time horizon, but at least 5, maybe 10. But I think at this point in life I've figured out to some extent who I am, and so yeah, the whole 20-year thing, it doesn't scare me so much. I think I'll be going in a direction that I'll be happy with.
That's a good place to be in.
So good.
Yeah.
So good. And I think we kind of glossed over a magical phrase there was wherever I'll be happy.
Yeah.
Like that. Wow. If that's not the epitome of being able to acclimate to any scenario and make it the best it possibly can, then I suppose I don't know what is. That is fascinating. Wow. Okay. I can't say it enough. I'm going to tell you this right now. I am very honored that you gave us this time, and this has been nothing but an unbelievable delight. And I feel
likewise.
I want to be honest about something that I thought I was going to get to have a fun podcast with X and have some fun conversations and it be kind of interesting. And it was all of those things, but I didn't expect it to be this inspiring. Mm-hmm. I don't commonly come across people who are this articulate in their ability to inspire and who are genuinely, they're good for the populace and they enjoy being good for the populace. And they have, in my opinion, they have a God-given gift that they're properly exercising. And so I came here to do a podcast and maybe laugh and be interested, and I'm leaving inspired. So, and this is, you could be a life coach, dude. So I'm grateful for your time, man. I really am.
Yeah.
It's so kind, man. I really appreciate you guys having me on here. Like this, like I said, I was so excited when you guys invited me. I've had a huge smile on my face the whole time. My jaw is like aching a little bit.
That's great, man.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's been a really great experience.
Awesome. Yeah, it's been our pleasure. So one thing, we focused on learning about you, both from the content creator side and now from a more personal side. I think when we dive into specific subjects that Xisuma could like have some real like knowledge behind, like if we ever did like a follow up to our habits one or anything in that kind of realm.
You're reading
like
my
the
mind.
Things that we've talked about. I think that we'll definitely reach out and see if you'd be willing to come on and share your insights, because it's always good to have more brains.
Oh, yeah, I'd love to do that.
More brains when it comes to these subjects. So if you'd be willing, we'll let you know if the opportunity arises. We'd love to have you back.
I would. I'm going to say yes.
Amazing. Thank you. All right. Well, that's where we'll end things for this one. Such a fun time. Thanks again, X. And we'll catch everybody next one.
All right. Thank you, guys.
See ya.
Bye-bye.